Okay, we are streaming live. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Phil. How are you, Phil?
Good evening, Danny, and good evening, everybody that has just joined us live.
Wonderful. So let me actually let the participants coming in. Okay, and that's Leanne. And we are just gonna wait a moment to allow people to join us. There you go. Okay, so how are you, Phil?
I'm very well, thank you, Danny. And
it's such a great honor to have you here tonight.
Wow, it's a great honor on your program.
Hello, good evening, Leanne.
Good evening,
Leanne.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us. Where are you based, Leanne?
I'm in Canada. I'm Vancouver.
Canada. Yes. I'm hoping to visit Canada either next year or in 2025.
Oh, good.
Vancouver.
Are you coming to Vancouver?
Yes.
Good. You'll like it. It's beautiful here.
I'm sure I will. Thank you.
Wonderful. And we're getting Christine joining us as well. So there you go.
Christine.
Hi, Phil.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Lovely.
How are you, Christine?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Good. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. Okay, so Phil, let's start with a little introduction on yourself rather than me saying about you. Why don't you, tell us how, how you developed.
I'm going to start by saying it's been a very, very interesting journey thus far, and it's been sometimes a very difficult and seemingly very arduous journey, simply because at the start of my psychic mediumistic development, what now I understand to be very necessary training seemed to be very arduous, very difficult, I'm somebody that likes very fast results. So when you're training for mediumship, as all mediums online now and mediums in general know, it's a process by which you need to cultivate a great deal of patience, perseverance, and self-belief. And I did have still have a lot of self-belief, but I realized that in order to work in the way that I wanted to work, and as mediums normally do work, I had to have that extra bit of trust and self-belief that mediumship requires.
Absolutely.
Because I started out professionally working as an actor, a professional actor, and did my 3 years drama school training.
Okay.
And then after that worked in regional, provincial theatre, film, television. And that was great because when you're working as an actor, you always have a script. Yeah. So you go through the process of learning your lines, you go through the rehearsal, you come to the first night, you think it's going to be the end of the world, and you finally find yourself on stage, speaking your lines, doing your performance, and you get through to the end and think, thank God that all went without a hitch. Which, thankfully, it usually did. But with mediumship, of course, it's a very different process because you have no script, you have no lines to learn. You're suddenly thrust onto a platform and told, this is your hour and a half, start and just work and give messages and communication from spirit. And that's your task.
Absolutely.
So it is.
Sorry to interrupt you, Phil. I just wanted to say good evening to Krish, who is following us. Good evening to you, Krish. We have Stephen Tickle, we have Mark Wilson, and hopefully more people will be following us. So if anyone during the evening have any question for Phil, then please do so by typing or whatever. If you are here on Zoom, of course, you can interact with us as well. It's fantastic.
Carry on, Danny.
Yeah, no, fantastic. I just wanted.
A lot of people have maybe already heard this, that have watched me work and heard me talk about how I started in this business. But I was on my way to a meeting in Belgrave Square in London. And as I passed what was then the Spiritualist Association of Great Britain building, I suddenly felt this tremendous sort of push to the right side of me, which pushed me towards the revolving doors of the SAGB. And before I knew where I was standing in front of the reception inside the building, and a lady was saying to me, "Oh, have you come for the demonstration?" And I said, "Excuse me, demonstration?" And she said, "Yes, it's starting in 5 minutes. You better go upstairs and take a place in the Oliver Lodge Hall." So I was so flummoxed about this. I thought, well, all right, upstairs. I completely forgot that I had to be in a meeting the other side of Belgrave Square in 10 minutes. But I went upstairs, sat in the Oliver Lodge Hall, and a medium named Ivy Northage was demonstrating. She did her business. She came nearly to the end of the demo, and she pointed at me at the back and said, "Excuse me, sir, are you there?" And I said, "Me?" And she said, "Yes, you. I want to see you after the demonstration." So I said, "Oh, okay, fine." So she took me to one side, outside, when she finished the demonstration, and she said, "Now, tell me, are you developing?" So I said, "Excuse me, am I developing?" She said, "Are you developing your mediumship?" And I said, "No, I'm not really understanding." She said, "Well, doing what I'm doing," she said, "you have a gift and you should be developing it." And I said, "Well, I'm sorry, I'm not doing that. I don't." Well, she said, "You should come to one of my classes. I've got a group here. I run it twice a week, and I also do another group at the College of Psychic Studies. So get in touch with my assistant, and she will book you in, and I'll start with you next week if that's convenient for you." So I was so sort of all at sea about this. I said, "Yeah, okay, fine. But yeah, thank you very much." And I left the building. And as I got outside, I looked at my watch, and I knew I was going to be massively late for this meeting. I looked at my watch, and I'd lost about 35 minutes of time. So I was in time for my meeting, and time literally had stood still while I was in the demonstration. So I was very, very confused and amazed at everything that had happened. And I got to the meeting, did the meeting, and then I started training with Ivy. I spent several years with her at the SAGB. We then moved to the College of Psychic Studies. I did another 2 years. And then suddenly, out of the blue, she said, "Right." She said, "This is all very good. You're progressing very well. Now we'll start on the trance." And I said, "Trance?" And she said, "Yes, I want you to develop your trance mediumship now." And she said, "Don't worry." She said, you can work with my guide, Chan. He will mentor you and take you through the process. And you'll be working on platform as an evidential and trance medium." So I was speechless. And I said, "Fine, if you think that's where I should be going, I'm very happy to follow your instruction." So cut a long story short, we did that. I was with her for a total of 5 years. And then she said, "Right, now you and you and you, including me, are all ready to give a demonstration." She took us all to Maidenhead Spiritualist Church. We all went on the platform, and we had to deliver 3 messages to 3 people over 20 minutes. And so we did that, and it was, as you can imagine, very nerve-wracking. And we all got through it. And that was the start of my professional mediumship.
Sounds to me as if spirit or the angels or whatever, they literally lifted you and just brought you
They
inside.
certainly did. And then after that, they directed me to the Arthur Findlay College, where I was extremely privileged to work with, and then eventually mentored by Gordon Higginson and the great trance medium, Ursula Roberts.
Yes.
So I did a total, really, of, I suppose, a couple of years work there with both of them. Worked also a little bit with Mavis Patilla. And
Yes, of course.
that was fantastic.
Wow.
Mentorship.
What a privilege. Honestly.
It was.
What a
And I
privilege.
can tell you that Gordon, when he put us up on the platform at the end of the training, said, "Now, the best thing all of you students can remember is that when you get a no, that is the best piece of advice you will ever get." He said, "Don't worry about getting yeses from people." He said, "It's the no's that really develop your quality of mediumship and your skill at communicating with spirit." So, and that has stood me in
How
very good stead.
interesting. And how do you think mediumship has developed since then, since the days
Since
with Gordon
when
Higginson?
I started, I don't, it's difficult. I mean, I don't like to say it, but I think in certain quarters, the mediumship training is not as thorough as it used to be.
Okay.
Myself and my contemporaries refer to the old school mediumship, which
Mm.
in ways was very, well, it was very good and is very good. In other ways, perhaps it's a little bit stuck in its sort of traditional roots.
Mhm.
And I think that really we all need to move with the times. And
Mm.
obviously, mediumistic techniques and teacher training
Mm.
need to develop with the climate of the time. So
Okay,
I'm not
yes.
saying that, you know, our mediumship was best or this type or that type is best.
Okay.
It's about the teacher and about their approach and their methods
Yes.
and how they encourage and nurture their
Mm.
students to develop,
Mm.
given that particular student's ability and potential.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, it feels just as you say at the moment that there are a lot of mediums out there, and certainly they are gifted, but then there are recognized schools such as the Arthur Findlay College, to name one, you know, the SAGB, and you know, and there will be other schools, the Arthur Conan Doyle, and so on.
Yeah.
You know, it's there is a saying in the community: everybody can be a psychic, but not everyone can
But
be
it
a
can be a
medium.
medium. Yeah. Yeah.
So, is that right? Isn't it?
Absolutely. I totally agree with you.
Because you do need to develop those skills, and it
You
takes.
absolutely need to develop them.
And
I think-
I find to like stand on a spiritual side of things and of the topic. In order to be a medium, one needs to be regularly practicing meditation, sitting in the power, or connecting, you know, to spirit. And it has come to a point whereby, for instance, and I'm talking about myself, I've taken so many workshops and all of the circles that I've been part to, where at some point Spirit said, that's it, that's enough, you don't need any more. Because I was back to back to back, you know, I went like to all of, you know, the best. I wanted to learn, you know, the techniques. And so, you know, at last, you know, I did some courses at the very end, after a few years of practicing very intensely with Tony Stockwell as well, you know, to refine a bit my technique and, you know, but then at the end of the day, it's all to do with practice, but also sitting with your own guides, because they have so much to teach us.
You can definitely overdose with training and workshops.
Yes,
And
that's
it is
correct.
about ultimately finding your own style and your own technique.
Yes.
Again, I can draw a parallel with acting, because you can learn so much at drama school, but then you come out and you really learn and consolidate your craft in the theatre. And until you're a very accomplished theatre actor, you shouldn't even set foot on a film set or a TV set, because you haven't got the right, you haven't necessarily developed the relevant technique to work in that way in front of the camera. So
Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely, yes. I want to say hi. Quite a few people, more people have joined us. So Stephen Tickle, good evening, darling. Darling. Good evening, Fiona, darling. And we got Serena, Lisa Poolen, good evening, Lisa Wynn, Moni, Gugger, Penny Farrer,
Penny Farrer. Hello,
yeah,
Penny.
yes,
Well.
Amanda Apps, Stephen Mager, who is saying good
Stephen
evening,
Mager,
everyone.
yes.
Yeah, and he's saying good evening, Phil and Daniela. Good to see us. Donna Jackson, Debbie Romero, and
Debbie Romero, there's a
everybody.
name for you.
Yeah. They're all in the house.
Yeah.
Debbie would say, in the house. We
So yes,
have-
Danny, just to get back to what you were saying about the developing mediumship
yes,
of the time of the age we are now in, I
yeah,
think the whole style of a public platform presentation is
yeah,
being developed by Spirit simply because there needs to be a different kind of form of delivery that reaches the
yes,
recipient of the messages in a way that isn't purely, I've got Uncle Charlie, he's telling me that he lived in the Isle of Wight, he died of a heart attack, you know, he had that's fine and that's necessary, but also we need to be blending that with information that is relevant perhaps to a recipient's personal and spiritual development.
absolutely.
And
And this
giving
is
them,
what the School of Conscious Evolution is all about.
yes,
And new mediumship, because this is a name that Spirit has given me. And they kicked me and said, now you go at the front and you do this, and you do these lives and podcasts, whatever you want to call them, but this is the name and this is what you do. And I go like, oh my God. And so, yes, absolutely, that is it. So new medium, this is where I was going to when I asked you about when you were
yes,
with Higginson, you know, like, how did it change? It's not the mediumship, you know, needs changing, but it's just as you were mentioning earlier on, it's
and also
what
I
the
would say
new,
that we are catering for a very wide younger demographic.
absolutely
Exactly, Danny.
right.
You are never going to attract a younger demographic if you stay stuck in the traditional form of mediumship delivery.
That's so
necessarily.
true. But
Because-
it is also true that you have different type of spirituality / mediumship, where you have the dogmatic side, which is almost the unapproachable one for the newer generations.
Yes.
They need to be actually welcomed and nourished and not put up with the front of, you know, and at the end of the day, whenever you have a religion with its dogmas and everything, that becomes almost a secluded sort of thing. Whereas to me, and what Spirit is saying is like we need to open up mediumship to the masses in a way that we let them understand, just as you mentioned a minute ago, that the messages that we are providing, other than obviously proving that there is life beyond, and we transfer our soul, you know, a sense onto a different plane. So it's energy, it will never be destroyed, it's just transmutes. But at the end of the day, the Spirit will come back to us so that they can help us, humankind, to raise our consciousness and to learn about spirituality and to nourish our own soul. Effectively speaking, we are here to reconnect to who we really are.
Sure. I'm also not a great advocate of what I call fast tracking the message. In other words, starting off by saying, Daniela, I have your grandmother here. She's a very nice lady. She's medium height and she was a very good cook. And she wants to give you a message that says blah, 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 blah. So I've skirted around really establishing very evidentially who she is in order to get to the message. So I think we've got to look at blending the two together so that I give a sufficient amount of evidential information, just not too much and not too little, and then go straight into the message. Yes,
absolutely.
A lot of mediums that are working and sort of, yes, grandma's here, very nice lady, da da da, and here's your message.
Of course.
That isn't good enough for me in terms of my own presentation. I need to know that I've given evidence that is concrete, that is understood, that is quite detailed, hopefully.
Exactly.
And
talking about the development of mediumship to meet the new requirements of the new vibrational energies on Earth and of the so many souls awakening, there are new, it's still experimental, I suppose, but say, for instance, I deal with crystals, and often, for instance, spirits offer me the image or the name of a crystal to which I can associate the message with, so I can give it to the person. That's like an example. But I understand that you actually are a keen astrologer.
Yes, I am.
And sometimes I've heard, when I attended your mediumship platforms, I know that on occasions you've used that, for instance, like the alignment of the planets and how this will be bringing certain lessons, if you like, to the person or challenges.
Yes, I mean, in that case, obviously, I haven't seen the person's birth chart. It's information
No,
that's
of
being
course
given
not,
to me
yeah.
by spirit to say,
Of course.
tell Daniela that her Mars is, trine Venus, and that she'll have a Saturn opposition to her Sun, and progressed Moon is at 23 degrees, whatever. Now, that's being given by spirit. And if the person is not an astrologer, which 9 times out of 10 they're not, I have to put that in a way that is going to be understood. So I have to qualify that by saying, well, Mars opposition Saturn means da, 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 da. And then they understand it. It's relating to information that spirit can more easily convey through that means of astrological symbology than they can through saying it in another way. So they
That is so
choose their
true.
method of communication. And I think that is the reason why I was taught trance, because as you well know, and other mediums know, it is not just so much about deep trance work now. It is about trance work that's done at a much lighter level, so that the guide or guides can blend your spiritual energy with their energy, and you can have an amalgam of both, which is what my guide Chung said to me very early on, that eventually he said, I'm going to stand back slightly and your personality is going to predominate in the communication process. So that some people don't even, they're not, they can be quite nervous about a spirit guide speaking to them. So if you can invest more of your own personality in the communication that the spirit guide is giving, it makes some people feel a lot more secure in the process of the reading.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we have actually, has just joined us, Ricky Avitan. I don't know if you know Ricky.
Yes, I know Ricky, yeah.
You know Ricky, yeah. She'll be our guest, my guest next week.
Lovely.
And she's also, for the ones that don't know about Ricky, she's a fantastic trance medium as well. And she's traveled recently from Canada to the UK to run some workshops, which have been fully booked. But anyways, and so I know that you have had some interest in psychology as well. So how does that all of this fit with your
Well, only because at one point I thought I wanted to be a psychoanalyst. I don't know why, but I got quite heavily into Freud and then latterly Jung, and thought, this sounds interesting because I can probe into people's minds and get all kinds of interesting information about the way their mind works, and trying to help them piece together areas of kind of conflict that they may be experiencing.
Yes.
So I started doing a psychoanalytic psychology certificate, and then eventually diploma at Birkbeck, London University. So I did that for 2.5 years, and then got my diploma, and didn't pursue that pathway because there was far too many other things going on in my life at the time. But it was incredibly useful for my own self-development, not just as a medium, but as a teacher and as a person in general.
In general,
so much about me. So
absolutely,
totally valuable.
And for instance, I have this is how I explain things. That I have an oracle deck, which is called Archetypes, and that is based on someone that has a similar background to yours. It's a medium. The name of the lady is now escaping me, but she made this, and it's all based on Freud and all of this. These archetype cards, and they are oracle cards, and that helps you to actually work with your intuition and all of that. So it's very important.
Absolutely, because quite often I work with the Jungian tarot, and my guide or guides will advise me to use a particular card for a particular reading. and they will, you know, as I pick the card symbology will speak to me and fill out the reading that I'm being given either by the communicator or by the spirit guide.
Absolutely.
So they can prove
Absolutely.
to be very, very helpful in a reading.
So sorry, carry on.
Sorry, no, there wouldn't necessarily be a full-blown tarot reading. It would be
No.
a mediumship reading, but it would incorporate specific symbology from a particular card or cards that elaborate on and fill out the actual communication that's being given.
How do you think using all of these different tools, if you like, complement mediumship?
Oh, absolutely. They're all invaluable because they're all giving you another perspective on not only your own, how your own perception of symbology and spiritual intuition is guiding you, but they're also bringing you into an area of much wider perception about spirituality and what it can offer, and how to absorb that and incorporate that and all that knowledge that these various tools offer into your own work and your own technique.
Absolutely. I feel, oh, sorry, Jilly Erickson, she said Zoom wouldn't let me join, but here I am now.
Julie Erickson.
Erickson, yes.
Oh, right. Hi, Julie. Nice to see you. Well, I can't see you, but nice to know you're here.
She's saying, happy I have found you.
Happy I found you.
Let's say hi to Sharon Karen and Nina Lincoln. Hey, Nina, good to see you tonight to join us as well.
Would you like me to read this piece?
Oh, yes, please do.
Danny?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so this is really a preface to an article that I've started writing that I hope to at some point expand quite a lot. I mean, whether it gets expanded into a kind of a book, I don't know at the moment. But anyway, this is the preface that I've started working on. There are significant, interesting correlations between mediumship, albeit evidential, trance, and psychic, and psychoanalytic shamanic practice. It behooves us as practicing and working mediums to observe the correlations so that we can better understand the similarities and use the knowledge to help develop, enhance, and progress our spiritual development. Definitely advantageous to reference the writing of, for instance, Simon James and Brian Robertson in the book Magician to Mystic, and Glyn Edwards and Santoshan, the book being The Spirit World in Plain English, also Psychoanalysis and Buddhism, edited by Jeremy D. Safran, plus any books by Ken Wilber, and The Tenets of Shamanism, with authors such as Kenneth Meadows, Caitlin, and John Matthews, particularly when allied to the function of the elements fire, earth, air, and water, and how identifying their manifestation in our lives brings a sharper clarity to our understanding and comprehension of mood and physical temperament, which ultimately influences our physical characteristics in relation to the external world. We can then begin to draw parallels with Native American Indian philosophy as depicted in the medicine wheel, which stands to impart sacred truths about how intrinsically the fabric of our lives is interwoven with subconscious recognition of spiritual laws, which, when acknowledging this font of wisdom, brings our awareness of multidimensional consciousness to another level. There are often uncannily similar patterns of symbolism and transformation of consciousness to be found in the diverse manifestations of shamanic tradition and in modern depth psychology, particularly in relation to Jung's theory of archetypes and the collective unconscious. Images and symbols which resonate so strongly with us are a predominant aspect of Jung's psychology and also a significant component of psychic and mediumistic development, which are also characteristic of shamanic practice. In his book, Shamanism and the Psychology of C.G. Jung by Robert E. Ryan, he says in Jung's terms that he is able to demonstrate the uniformity of psychic events in time and space. So Jung can inform and widen our understanding about the principles of mediumship in terms of preserving our health and psychological well-being, but also positively impacting our spiritual experience and unfoldment. Aspects of Buddhism, which now play an increasingly important role in my spiritual practice, again correlate to psychoanalysis in terms of re-examining and understanding self, which is, in my opinion, a prerequisite for any type of spiritual, mediumistic exploration or vocation, and particularly the fundamental core of personal and mediumship training. Without a firm grounding, we can only attempt to scratch the surface of the shamanic underworld or higher levels of etheric and upper worlds, or the spiritual realms, angelic beings, and spirit guides who are waiting to assist in our journeying, some of whom have committed to work with us for the duration of our physical incarnation, but only if we have done our preparatory homework. Such is the intrinsic web we weave in attempting to coordinate the many threads of spiritual knowledge and understanding, with so many tools with which to work, with the primary objective of becoming a more fully understood to ourselves human being and a stronger and more cooperative worker for spirit. Thank you.
Sorry, I muted myself to give you all the space. And I was saying, when is it you're going to publish your book?
No.
Because
I'll
I
have to
feel
get on with
like
it
I'd
when I've started.
love to read it. I mean, your writing technique is obviously a gift that you have also through, you know, your acting and being in the film industry and producing, you know, script for movies and things.
I think it's
like
so
that.
great to get all the writing out of your system, and particularly when you're developing as a medium, to write, keep a journal and write about all your experiences in every single class or circle, and what that represented to you, what that process represented to you, where you think you went wrong or where you think you went right. Put it all down, journal it, and then review it constantly and use that within your, and of course, what we're always talking about, Danny, is meditation and how invaluable meditation is to training your instrument to work.
Absolutely. And when you say about the writing, it's when what I tell my students when I run my spiritual development group, which I do in person once a month, it's to write as possibly even once a day, to just do a two-way communication with spirit and just putting it out there to spirit, you know, our thoughts or worries or questions, and then imagine that spirit is talking to us and just start writing what actually is known as automatic writing. But sometimes, you know, people can get a bit self-conscious about that. So I just tell them, you know, just don't think too much about it. Some people write so quickly they can't recognize the handwriting at the end, but it's okay. It's okay. And this is one of the ways you can really...
Well, you see, this is what happens when I run my open platform at Wimbledon Spiritualist Church, and a number of developing mediums get onto the platform and I say, what are you going to do? I'm going to read something that I wrote. It's not very good, but I think that, you know, maybe I should read it. And I said, first of all, why are you telling me that you don't think it's any good? And why are you using the word I should read it as opposed to I would like to read it? So you've got two negatives there to begin with. Yes. And I want to try and encourage students now to develop their own sense of self-worth in mediumship, particularly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and value.
That's very powerful what you just said, Phil.
Because, you know, I mean, they've written something and I say, well, were you conscious of writing this when the words hit the paper? Oh, no, I just held the pen and it wrote itself. So I say, well, therefore, why do you think that it's not worth reading? Because that is in some way kind of insulting to spirit to say, well, I was given this inspirationally, but I don't think it's worth reading.
Yeah, no,
See?
exactly.
And
And you said something very important, which is part of our evolution and ascension. The so famously used word ascension, which it's all to do with returning to ourselves, reconnecting to our own soul, and recognizing that we are part of the divine, we are a spark of light, and hence, if we don't literally, and I know this might be a used or overused word, but love ourselves truly and deeply, that we can actually recognize our own worth. And if we can help our students to recognize that in themselves, then actually doing a spiritual work with spirit, it actually becomes an inner journey.
that's right. Absolutely, totally. It's all about an inner journey, isn't it? As well
It's
as the
all
outer
about
journey of
the inner journey.
connecting with your audience or your recipients.
Exactly. And this is what, like, this is what I want, what Spirit wants me with the School of Conscious Evolution to do, and invite, mediums and people with that have, because sometimes people that are new to mediumship, or young people, they think that we just do this for a living, whereas we also have a life, we have a day job,
Yeah.
and and we have also our own challenges, and they need to understand that we need to grow and transmute all of those challenges that life brings us, and transmute them into positive. And we are at the forefront, as we are aware of our role here, being a bit of the beaming lights, for others. We are aware of the inner work that we need to do. I don't like using the word shadow work, because sometimes it feels like it's got a bit of a negative, attribute sort of thing, it's not shadow. I mean, I understand why, probably to some extent, you study psychology, so you understand where I'm coming from. But it's important to actually work with our ego, and understanding where in life we go wrong, we wrong other people, but
I think it's good to know as much about yourself as you possibly can, or as much as your conscious mind allows you so to do.
Absolutely.
Because the more you know, inevitably there are aspects of all of us that we don't like, or we prefer not to show or put on, display to the world, which you might refer to, or not you, but might be referred to by some as the shadow side.
Right.
But that's just part of who we are, and that's our human makeup. And there's always going to be stuff that we don't want to show and put on display. But it's good to know about it, and it's good to know what might be there that is being suppressed or kept down, that might ultimately be of use and of interest in some way in our world and to other people.
And that makes us overall a much better person for ourselves. Helps us, to cope
because
with
after
life.
all, it's only our perception of us and who we are. It's not somebody else's perception.
But also helps us to raise above the problems and see things from a different perspective.
Yes.
Where some that haven't done, a lot of work, they are just, they tend to have a bit more of a negative approach, or they are like more on the victim side, victimistic mentality, if you like. Whereas when you come through so much and you get to know yourself and you find that strength inside of yourself, then you can raise above certain the whatever life throws at you, and you can raise above. And sometimes people turn around and they say,
absolutely,
how did you do that? And I just think, well, I've gone through just so much.
But I also think that's why some people's mediumship is very sometimes late starting in life. Some people develop their mediumship at 40, 50, 60, even 70.
Yes.
I heard about a lady who's developing as a trance medium. She's 85.
Wow.
again, that can be about waiting or spirit guiding you to wait until you've gone through certain earthly experience as a human being and gone through that, understand it, gone through the trauma or whatever that experience involved. And then when you come out of the other side, then you're ready, and spirit know you're ready to start doing the work.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so true. Although, you know, I find when I look on the social media, there are children at the moment that are channelers, natural channelers, and I mean, they are on a completely different plane, these children and young generation. You know, they can walk into the room and just say, oh, I didn't like the energy of it.
Yeah.
You know, it was,
Yeah.
you know, and they are very much, you know, tuned into it. So we are also looking at this shift at the same time.
Yes. But I also think trust, I mean, trust is the major factor, I think, in any form of training, and particularly mediumship. Because unless you trust spirit, your development is just going to come to a standstill. Because it won't go anywhere, because that's fundamentally about not trusting yourself. And you don't trust yourself to be able to serve spirit in the way that you feel they would like you to serve, or the way in which perhaps you think you are expected to serve. So it's really about developing that trust factor, absolutely 120%. Because you know that you're on a path, you're being guided, your intuition is telling you, it's moving you along this spiritual track. So you know that you are on the right path, and yet there's still this doubt in your mind that says, I'm not too sure I'm going to get this right. You know, I'm going to fall at the last hurdle and whatever. So that is you putting your lack of trust in spirit, because you know that they're there and they won't let you down. If you trust in yourself and your vocation, they will not let you down.
And that's so true. I feel that I have been there myself. There is this stepping stone in learning in mediumship, that you have to trust what you've been given by spirit. Because often when we are learning mediumship, we find that we get in our way a bit too often, and we don't trust what we hear. And so the ego comes in and our mind comes in, and then and that's where we can make mistakes sometimes, because we don't trust them. And then, you know, once you get over that and you say, you know, and then when you start getting the no, I don't think so, from the audience or the sitter, then, you know, we just say, you know, I'm sorry, this is what spirit is, you know, giving me. Can you please hold on to that? Because, and sooner or later it will be proven, you know, that was the case, the information was given. So that is very, very important. So I understand that you have started recently what is it, a trance, once a month, a circle?
A circle?
Yeah, or a development, what is it, a class
I'm not doing
that
a
you're
trance circle at the moment.
You were running a class from the Wimbledon Spiritualist Church?
Well, I did have a platform at Wimbledon.
Oh, platform, okay.
Yes. So I am planning to start a trance circle at Wimbledon at some point next year, because, you know, there is definitely a need for that. And as I said earlier, it won't necessarily be a circle where people will be going into deep trance. I mean, if that happens, it happens. But I want to foster this whole ethos of trance communication being a lowering of the conscious mind, but not to the extent where you're necessarily out of the picture completely. This is why it was confusing for me, because my guide said, when we work together, I'm not going to put you in full trance. You're going to be semi-conscious so that you'll hear yourself, or me rather, at that point talking. And I want you to get accustomed to that and learn to get used to that. And in that process, not to allow your conscious mind to interfere with what I'm saying. So I had to get used to that particular way of working. And all the time I was thinking, I wish I could just go out completely cold. and not remember a thing, which is what most trance mediums, many
That's right.
used to do. But he said, no, it's not going to work like that, because the new way of working for me and other guides is to put their mediums into a much lighter state of trance.
Yes, I've heard of this before, actually.
So
Yes, I've
over
heard.
20 years, I've become used to that. And,
Wow.
you know, that's the way we work. I mean, other people might want to work in a much deeper state.
Yes,
it's about what is appropriate for you as a medium. No hard and fast rule on that.
Isn't that wonderful, though? Because there is this tendency of, trying to find, I suppose, not tendency, but a lot of mediums are asking themselves, where is the way? What's the best way to move forward? And actually, there isn't such a thing as perfection in mediumship. But it's just to do with working with our guides,
yes,
and to do what they want us to do. In this case, and I've spoken to you before in the past, and some other mediums as well, we are feeling that there is a need from spirit onto us to start working differently, and as you say,
yes,
to channel a bit more spirit. So we've got Mark Wilson here.
Mark Wilson, that name sounds familiar to me.
Yeah, he's saying, I'd say, listen to the animals and nature where spirit can manifest.
Yes, true.
If you don't quite trust your own consciousness, well, it helps me. Just a shame, I've only started listening a couple of years ago.
Well, again, that verges on the shamanic principle, Mark, where, we are introduced on our journey process to power animals, and we go to the particular level which is appropriate for us at any particular point in our shamanic training, and then we communicate with either spirit guides or spirit or power animals. And and that most definitely increases our ability to communicate with animals on this level of consciousness as well, and also nature and trees and plants.
Absolutely. And shamanism is another area that you've investigated, right?
Mm-hmm.
How is that? How did you absorb that into your mediumship or your development, perhaps?
Well, that came in very useful for the trance, really, because it allowed me to go into or release my own conscious self into a state of etheric experience. And that's very much what shamanism is about. It's very much about occupying different areas of the etheric world. And, then receiving the appropriate communication that is necessary for your particular self-development and spiritual enhancement. So that's how that sort of started. And again, I was guided to the right people for me. And I'd read books by Caitlin and John Matthews, and then various other authors, Kenneth Meadows and Sandra Ingerman. And, they all threw something different into the mix. Just a process of absorption and putting it all into your blender, and like having a smoothie in the morning.
It's wonderful.
Smoothie moment.
I really love that.
Well, it is. All these tools are all there to be blended.
Absolutely. And as we said earlier on, this is all to do with what spirit is wants us to work like, to implement all different types of energies, because at the end of the day, shamanism has a different type of energy from other, planes.
Yes, and I would caution against doing shamanic training with anybody that isn't fully qualified and isn't prepared to journey with you and send you off saying, well, why don't you try this journey at home and just, do it on your own. But no, if you've got no previous experience of shamanism, you need to be working with a fully fledged, experienced and qualified guide physical guide to help you
Definitely.
with that journey.
Definitely. Yeah, I have heard of people that there are some Italians following us, and they are complaining there isn't a translation. So we need to look into that if that's possible to
Wow.
put a translation even.
I think what I might do is translate that article that I've written for you into Italian.
Oh yeah, why not? That would be brilliant. That's a task for you now.
Okay.
Okay, so that is fantastic. So do you have let me put it this way. Do you know what spirit has in plan for you for
Ooh. In a word, Danny, not well, kind of. I've got a shape, an idea of the way it's sort of shaping up. But I don't like to necessarily ask spirit specific questions about what am I going to be doing at this time next year. They kind of feed me information. They feed me tidbits of information and say, well, learn about this, learn about that, because you're going there or you're going there. You're going to meet this group of people. So they've indicated that I'm going to do a lot more teaching. They've indicated that I'm going to work abroad in certain countries, Italy being one of them, which is nice. So yeah, I've got a sort of a framework, an outline.
Isn't that interesting, like tying in with you there, that a lot of people, when they ask for a mediumship reading, that sometimes they want to know about the future as well.
Yeah.
And there is like a fine line, because we don't do that, do we?
No. And I find that with tarot reading as well, that people will inevitably want a predictive reading. And I say straight up front, I don't do predictive readings.
Yeah.
Well, because simply there is no past, present, or future.
No, and we have free will at the end of the day.
And everything really is about the now and how we're handling the now and how we intend to move forward from the now. But as far as prediction, no, I don't deal with that.
Okay, so that's wonderful. Some of the books you mentioned earlier on, I will put a list at the end.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions they want to ask?
Yeah, any questions from, we've got about 12 people following us on Facebook, or let me see, I'm just going through one comment. Oh, Stephen is saying, having seen my future many times and after the event has passed, it's become quite comforting that nothing ever turns out quite how I expected, despite how accurate it was.
Wow. Who is this Stephen who's saying this, asking
Major.
Oh, Stephen Major, right.
Yeah.
Okay, Stephen. Well, I guess that's great if you see your future and it's, what was the ending that you said, Danny? I didn't, the sound.
So he's saying, having seen my future many times and after the event has passed, it's become quite comforting that nothing ever turns out quite how you expected, despite how accurate it was.
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess I'm not sure that I'd be too comfortable about seeing my own future. And I sort of really would prefer that it just happens and takes its course without me knowing too much about it. That doesn't mean I negate my own responsibility for guiding my future into a certain sort of along a certain pathway. But yeah, I'm not quite sure really whether I'd like.
What Spirit has been telling me quite a lot recently is that we can actually, as we are ascending, we can manifest our own future. So it's a lot of times they say, don't ask us, you know, what you want us, don't ask us what we want you to do. Just tell us what you want. Excuse me.
I think that there's sort of preoccupation a lot of people have with wanting to know their future and, can you give me a predictive reading, blah, blah, blah. I think that's very much based in insecurity. Because if you're quite secure in yourself, I don't really understand why you would necessarily want to know whether you're going to win the lottery in 6 months, whether you're
Yeah.
going to get a divorce.
And
in 6
let's
months.
be honest, we need to be realistic with
Yeah.
that as well, right?
Yeah.
Because winning the lottery, who wouldn't want to win a lottery? But the truth is
Mm.
that actually we are on a life journey, you know, to discover about ourselves, and anything else that comes our way is an added bonus.
That's right.
I suppose, there you go, that's where I was getting to. Mark Wilson is saying, yeah, I know, I manifested my own future just recently. And this is where I was getting to, because I am as well, Mark. That's what I'm working on, because the Spirit has told me that I need to manifest my own future. What do I want? And then they're saying, because you are on your life path,
Mm.
then you will be manifesting
I
when
don't so
the
much
divine timing is
consciously
right.
want to manifest my future. I know that it's being manifested anyway through my intention and my aspiration and the way that I've chosen to work. So therefore, I, in a sense, let it go onto automatic pilot. I don't just sit down every evening and think, right, now I've got to allocate this amount of time to manifesting my future.
Mm,
It's not the way that I work.
yeah,
I completely respect people that work in different ways.
yeah, of course.
good.
Ricky Avitan is saying, we create our reality. What we input, we output. At times, events take place in our lives for elevation.
Yes, I agree with you, Vicky. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely, because we are reality, and that's when people say, whenever you have like negative thoughts, be careful, because they actually become a reality. You actually project, and then that's what your output is.
Goes
You're
around
thinking
comes
negative,
up. Yes, yes.
you will get that. And I would say likewise, when we vibrate with certain energies, and if you to whoever is following us, if you look at the past and the people that you knew, you interacted with,
Yes.
and see where you were in life, because a lot of time people that are surrounding us are actually just magnifying our own energy, and they act as a mirror almost.
Yes.
So that we learn, and then when we have learned the lessons and move on, some people disappear from our lives because they have appeared to actually
I
teach us
totally relate to
lessons
that. We attract the people that we need,
that we
not
need.
necessarily that we want, but the people that we need in order to enhance and develop our own particular pathway.
And sometimes if we think, yes, absolutely. And if we think of, if we think of certain people of our past, they certainly wouldn't fit in our lives 20 years on, because we've just matured. We've become different people. We are not what we used to be anymore.
No, we're constantly evolving, which is why
exactly
I chose to study evolutionary astrology.
That's it. That's the other thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
I'll come back to that in a second. Mark Wilson is also saying, I needed a good excuse for a rest of work, but it's just a negative way it's happened. Not because I didn't lie. I wanted a sick note and got one.
Well, okay. Well, if that's how you get your sick notes, Mark, carry on doing it, mate. It's obviously working for you.
So let's go back to this evolutionary astrology. How does it work?
Oh my goodness. Well, the emphasis really with evolutionary astrology is that the symbology of the planets is looked at from the point of view of personal and spiritual evolvement. And how the qualities of those planets and the various configurations that planets make can augment your spiritual purpose, or enhance or highlight aspects of your personality, of your perception of the world, and how that can affect your everyday behavior.
Mm.
And
And do you offer this as one-to-one if someone is interested?
well, not right now, Danny, because I'm so busy doing other work, and I consider myself still, well, a student in everything in life. But I want to ground my evolutionary astrology a lot more before I
Right.
actually start using it on a professional level.
I understand.
So,
I understand.
I'll do it for friends, and
Okay.
but
Okay.
I'm not actually charging a fee for doing
I'm
it.
sure that a lot of people will agree with me that it's extremely interesting, to find and to talking to you, because you have actually, the expression would be to dip your toes into something, but I think you've done far more than that. You walked into it, in so many different, you got your diploma in psychology, and, you've got the trance mediumship, and, you've been a teacher at the, at the College of Psychic Studies,
I have,
isn't
yes, I
it?
teach voice.
For what, 11 years, you said?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting when you look back on your life and you see why you were doing a certain thing at a particular time in your life.
Yeah.
I look back to my acting training and acting work, and I can see how that dovetailed into mediumship, and how that has dovetailed into teaching mediums about platform presentation skills, building confidence, and generally understanding the process of working one-to-one with a congregation in a church, or with one-to-one in a reading.
Yeah.
Communication skills are so important. And my teacher, Ivy Northage, used to say, I don't care how good a medium you are, if you can't speak properly and dress properly, I am not letting you onto a public platform. And she was really, really strict about that.
Yeah.
Now a lot of people would laugh and say, well, that's a bit sort of old-fashioned. But, there are...
About that. There is, I feel that it's to do with the reverence of working with spirit.
Yes.
I think this is what.
And,
thank you, Leanne. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne.
Stephen is saying, do you believe your view of time becomes more stable by studying astrology? Time can race away from us with the pace of life, and find the moon cycles bring me back into balance.
Oh, yes. I think, I do rate moon cycles right up there on the chart. Because they're our barometer, as to why we're feeling like SHIT one day and on top of the world the next day. And just being able to work with those cycles very intuitively, but also understanding the principles of why those moon cycles operate in the way they do, is a great giver of security and comfort and reassurance. Because it puts a meaning and a purpose to why you are feeling in the way you're feeling at any particular moment.
Well, if we look at the full moon and the new moon, for instance, they are like staples, because they allow us to actually close the cycle of a month, looking back at what we need to let go and what we've learned. And then with the new moon, we set the intention for what to come and what we want to achieve in a new phase. So absolutely, I would agree actually with that. I would agree with that. As a barometer.
Time, you mentioned time.
Yeah. It's do you believe your view of time becomes more stable by studying astrology?
Yes, I wouldn't ever have said my sort of understanding or feeling about time made me, unstable in any way. But certainly my knowledge of astrology and everything that relates to has given me a stronger kind of foundation in terms of understanding or using time as my friend or ally.
Do you feel that I don't know your perception, but my perception of time at the moment, time sometimes goes so fast that I don't know how to describe it, but I find time is going much faster.
Oh, it is going faster indeed, for me anyway.
Yeah,
much faster. And I'm
It's
sure
going much faster, and I can't point a finger on what it is and how I can make it work for me. And I'm still trying to work around that and trying to discover what this new meaning of, fast, because it's not to do with faster pace.
No.
In my olden days, pre-spiritualism, when I used to work in investment banks, time was never enough, but yet my days were quite full and I was in control of it. I had my 12 hours working day and I still was able to manage my life somehow. But this day I live a much slower.
Well, I mean, a whole year now seems to me like, or what used to feel like a whole year seems like 6 months now. 1 minute it's Christmas and then the next minute it's Christmas again. So
yes, and I'm talking really on a day-to-day basis.
Day to day.
And so I'm just trying to still figure this out. So I was just wondering how you felt.
Maybe it has something to do with this whole ascension process and how that's being orchestrated by the powers that be.
Absolutely. And Ricky Avitan, she's saying thank you very much to the both of us. As she's in Canada. Her time. Yeah, she's ahead of.
They're 8 hours behind.
Yeah, behind actually. Yeah. So Phil, I just want to say thank you so much for having come along, and have a chat with us, and we've touched base on very, very interesting topics. And I'd love to have you back sometime in the new year. If you would love to come back again, it would be really lovely. And I've got probably some plans for the new year for this, that I will announce in due course as well. Is there anything that you would like to add, perhaps, in regards to what you do?
I think I would like to say to all developing mediums that are watching, please have more trust if you are lacking trust in yourself and in your potential, because if you weren't meant to be doing this, you wouldn't be doing it. You wouldn't be sitting in circle and developing your ability. So the fact that you are there doing it means that you are on your pathway. So trust in yourself, trust in spirit, never be afraid to say something that isn't accepted first off. Go back, get more information, spirit are there waiting for you. Never be afraid to ask the communicating spirit for more evidence, more information. And enjoy what you do. I mean, that is of primary importance to me. Don't feel, it's terror for me to actually get on a platform, and you're not going to make a fool of yourself. It's all a learning experience.
Yeah.
And it's an experience which will enrich your life beyond anything you could possibly imagine. And not in an egotistical or selfish way. It's going to enrich your life, knowing that you are contributing to people's well-being, to helping them restore faith in themselves and faith in their ability and potential to derive whatever they are meant to derive from this particular lifetime experience.
Beautiful. And I can feel spirit coming through actually with your words as well. I get hit with this wave of spirit coming through, which is beautiful, really, truly beautiful. Phil, thank you.
Can I say something?
Yes, of course, Christine, go ahead.
I've spoken to Phil a couple of times, haven't I, Phil?
You have, Christine, yeah.
Face to face, and he's helped me a lot. I mean, I've been doing it 3 years, and I've been sitting here smiling when he says about trust, because he knows what I'm like. I got it off him and Mary Dixie.
Yes.
Both at the same time. You got to trust Christine. I said, I'm doing it. They both turned together, looked at each other and went, you don't. And the confidence thing, my confidence is still, it's getting better, but it's still not great.
Good. But you made tremendous strides, Christine. I know
Mm.
that from what I hear and also what I see when you're working with Stace online. And you should give yourself a big pat on the back.
Well, I'm doing Wimbledon
So
now.
just
I'm
very,
doing
very
Friendship
proud
Club
of
in a couple of weeks.
And I know your dear mum is very proud of you.
I know she is, bless her.
But she said that to me on many occasions.
Yes.
And,
I've been told off by Chung many times too.
yeah, I hope Chung doesn't come across too severely.
It's not so much him, it's your other one. I can never remember his
White
name.
feather.
Oh,
My
he has me sitting upright, and I feel like I'm at school.
I've told him to tone it down now because he can be a bit overpowering. So
No, but I mean that to me, that's what I need.
right.
I'm a person I need to be pushed.
Yeah. Okay.
We had Moira Hawkins once in the SPDB
Have we
developed
lost
circle.
Moira.
Christine?
Oh yeah, she's old school.
Yeah, and she pushed me. She pushed me and pushed me, and that's me. That's what I need. But
Yeah.
I'm a visual learner as well, so I've been taking notes. You know me, I take notes and research it all back up, and
Just
it's
one
been
little
very
snippet
exciting.
before I go, if I may, Danny. Yeah. Danny, can you hear me?
I think she's lost us.
Oh. Can you hear Danny? Wow.
She can't hear us.
Right, it's you and me and the rest of us, Christine.
Nervous.
Ah. Number sent up you. You can't hear anymore.
Oh,
Oh, she can't hear us. Can't hear anything. She always speaks to me in Italian. I don't know why. Well, we
Voi
better...
mi sentite?
Ah.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me? I'm not muted.
no, not mine.
I can hear you, Danny. Yes.
Yes, you can hear me. Okay, all right, okay. Sorry about that. I really don't know what happened, but anyhow, it's
That
time
spirit.
to wrap up the evening. Thank you ever so much for everyone having popped along, for asking the questions, and your presence means a lot to us. And Phil, thank you ever so much. You are not just a dear friend, but I always have a lot of, you inspire me a lot, and your knowledge and your professionalism when it comes to trance and evidential mediumship, you can tell you are in a different category. But then when we look at your past and how you developed, then one understands why. But above all, it's you are an example of a medium whereby the intelligence and the knowledge goes way, way beyond, mediumship. Makes you understand that, each single medium is a magnificent produce of the divine, and we are all unique and beautiful, and you certainly are. A lovely, lovely medium.
That by saying everybody here is unique and beautiful, and everybody's mediumship is unique and beautiful. So don't ever think, well, I wanted to be as good as Gordon Higginson or Ursula Roberts or whoever, but I'm never going to be like that. You just know that you can be as good as you want to be, and as spirit are working with you to be, and that's good enough for me.
Okay, so thank you again, everyone, and I'm sure Phil will see you again in the new year. I would love for you to join us again, and thank you again, and
Facebook address.
have a good evening, everyone.
Danny?
And thank you, Phil. Thank you, and bye, Christine, as well.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.